Well, even though it's well above freezing, it is still snowing. Even after the record snowfall, you might be able to tell that the snow is starting to melt. That's not really the point. One of the things that I've been doing a lot lately is looking around on the local classifieds for what I like to call junk with potential. Namely, looking through the free section, trying to find things that people are giving away that, I could put to use, or at the very least make a decent video about. When I saw a listing on the free section for a 21-year-old PC, at first glance, I don't need that. I've got more than enough 21-year-old PCs sitting around that basically are doing nothing because I have no use for them. So normally I'd pass that up. But the listing intrigued me because it was billed as being complete, including the factory software restore disks and all the documentation. And that's something you don't ever see. Now, it was a complete bundle with a printer, keyboard, mouse, extras was what was shown in the listing, and a printer. Did I mention a printer? I think I mentioned a printer. I don't think I mentioned a monitor. So I posted a message and said, hey, I'm interested in that, if only so I could make a video about it. Because as you'll see here, it's nothing to write home about in any way. Initially, I was told somebody else had claimed it, and the listing was removed the next day, so I kind of forgot about it. This was last week. So fast forward to yesterday, when I'm doing the same thing, looking at the classifieds, and the listing shows up again. So I figure I'll try my luck. I'll mention it, I'll leave a message, and sure enough, what had happened, which really kind of bothers me, it's a really common thing. I'm not really sure why, but 90% of the people that express interest or anything, even the people that go so far as to organize in the range of time to pick something up, they don't show up, and then you get ghosted immediately afterwards. That's what happened here. The guy just never showed up and never responded. So I ended up being the one to take it home. So what do we get? Well, if you can't read the video title, there's the computer tower itself, which is indeed a never obsolete eMachines eTower. I thought it was a 566i. It's actually a 566IR. I'm not really sure what that means, if there's a difference between the two, or if there's something else. I guess we can find out. IR would make me think that it's got infrared, but I don't see any infrared on this anywhere, unless I'm just not looking in the right place. We'll take a closer look at that in a second. But I have a monitor. I've got pretty much all the accessories. This is a box of software. I have the original keyboard, which I was told is broken, which is why we have this one. I have a really disgusting looking compact mouse, which is obviously not original, and a printer. Now, being as though this is, the middle of winter, there's not a whole lot of space that's clean here in the garage. So, hopefully, this little area here is going to be good enough to use as a staging ground to, take the machine apart, have a look at it. The listing said that the hard drive had packed it in, which wouldn't really surprise me, considering how cheap these things are built. It's probably a really crappy hard drive, probably a Seagate. But we'll investigate. But I guess first step is to take all this stuff out of the box and have a look at what we have here. Alright, here's the monitor, which, like I said, I think I said anyway, it's really nothing to write home about. I don't think it's the original monitor. This Handsaw 500A. Let's see. Oh, it's got a software switch. So, how new is this? Probably the mid-2000s. It's got some schmutz on it, but not really too bad, all things considered. Let's see. It's kind of hard to read that. I'm trying to use the camera, and that's not going so well. Guess you could pause the video if you'd like to read that. I love how there's another model number on the back, which is brilliant. I love it when manufacturers do that. I'm sure this is just some cheap generic piece of junk, though. Let's see, manufactured February of 2000. Okay, well, it's older than I thought. Made in Thailand. It's an interesting place of manufacture for information technology equipment. It's got a permanently attached VGA cable, which actually has a pretty big choke on it. You know, it's not bad. It's missing the middle pin. I don't know if it had a middle pin or not. The one pin in the middle. It's not needed. I don't know exactly what it does unless that's for the EDID information. But there are some computers I have that will not work if that pin is present. I have a cable that I had to modify for that purpose, but I guess it ultimately doesn't really matter. Try and get this out of the way. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I may end up flipping it. Well, I'll probably end up flipping it if it's in decent shape, like if the picture's okay and all that, but I guess if it's not, then it's just going to end up getting recycled because I have no use for it. I have a Trinitron, and even that I really don't use, so I mean, it helps to keep some of these around to have a couple of them on hand just in case you need one, but the uses for a Trinitron are pretty low. I don't think this belongs with this, because this is a Windows 95 machine, 98 machine, I should say. This is Microsoft Works for 95. So I assume that this probably came with their older machine, which honestly I would have probably rather had more than this, because I think it was an HP Vectra of some description or another. An HP something. But I've got this, which does have the COA on the back, which I think has got the product code and all that. So, is it useful for something? Maybe. I don't think I'm ever going to use Microsoft Works for Windows 95, though. So, take from that what you may. This is the user's guide for the eMachines eTower series computer, copyright 98 eMachines. I assume this is basically just setup instructions. This is the user's guide for the eView series. eView 50, yeah, so this is for the original monitor, which is not this. So I don't have that, which I guess is fine. A 15-inch CRT is a 15-inch CRT, let's be honest about it. This is a Canon BubbleJet BJC 2000 user's guide. Color BubbleJet with photorealism. If you guess that's what the printer is, you'd be right. It is. There's the French manual. This is in fact a BubbleJet BJC 2000. It's really yellowed, unfortunately. I may have to experiment with retro brighting. I'll probably end up using this. The printer itself is probably worthless. I mean, really, who needs a random color inkjet printer, right? I'm guessing that's how that's supposed to sit in there. I'm not really sure. I mean, that's the only place I can think of that it would go, because it's got the pull-out tray. Years ago, and I've got videos of it on my channel, I had a BJC 2100, which I think is basically exactly the same printer as this. It's certainly the same design. I think the difference is that this one, it looks like this one is parallel only. I don't see a USB port anywhere on that. Whereas the 2100 had a USB port on it. So arguably the 2100 is more useful. But I mean, I have this. It's a free printer. I mean, who's going to say no to a free printer, right? Take a look here. This, I think, goes to the printer. I guess it's an ink holder or something. There's a couple of plastic protectors. I got some cables. Looks like I have the parallel cable that goes to the printer itself, which, for whatever reason, has got a 25 to 9-pin serial adapter on it. Not really sure what the purpose of that is, but it's there, so that's a thing. No power cord for the printer itself. I do have the two power cords Presumably one goes to the monitor and one goes to the computer itself. At least that'd be my guess. Well, let's see, what else did we get? There's this, which I don't know if this is brand new or what this is, because it's not opened at all. So this is the black ink cartridge. I don't think you can still buy these. I'm not sure. I'll have to look into that, but I don't think you can buy these ink tanks anymore. See, the thing with this printer is it doesn't use cartridges like printers use now. It uses what's called ink tanks. So even without powering it up, I can show you that. Even though this is not a video with the printer. It's got this thing. So you can see, wow, that's a mess. But it's got the BC21E. Basically, that's the cartridge, which has got the electronics and all that on it. And what's in it are these ink tanks. There's your black. I think it's pretty much empty. It looked kind of dry to me. Can I get that out? Here we go. And there's your color, which, like I said, that also looks kind of dry. So I don't know if the printer works. I'd wager to bet that if it doesn't, it's going to need some serious cleaning. But if it's got a problem, it's probably just that it needs to be cleaned. So let's see, we got that. This is why I think that they originally had an HP. How's this open? It looks kind of broken. But this is a software thingy. Basically a floppy disk holder, which evidently I'm not smart enough to open with one hand. And I think I just broke it. But yeah, that's for holding floppies. It's branded HP, so it probably came with a Vectra of some kind at some point in the past. So we've got more documentation. This has got the Windows 98 product key and all that other stuff on it, as well as AOL 4.0, woohoo, 100 free hours. I wonder if they'd actually still honor that. I know AOL is still around, or AOL, as a lot of people called it. There's a registration card, which I don't think is filled out. I guess I could find out. I would guess not. No, it doesn't look like it's been filled out. So, that's totally legal software. Same deal with that. This is probably FrameMaker Deluxe Live Picks for 95 and 98. It's never been opened. Huh. Interesting. This is what? Canon software for that printer. There's the restore disk that I care about. Bootable CD. Looks like both of them are bootable. The software included on this recovery CD-ROM is pre-installed on your hard drive at the factory and may only be used for backup and recovery of your eMachines Ink computer system. I see some potential problem there. I think these disks might be degrading. Let's see if we can see that on camera. I'm going to take it out. I'm going to have a look at it. But it looks like, I don't know if you can see that. Same thing that I can see, but look at that shiny right there. I don't think that's normal. Maybe it is. Maybe it's just the way the disk's been created. It's kind of odd. The backside of the disk looks okay, at least to the naked eye. So we'll have to try it, and I'm going to end up having to probably use it anyway. That's not for this system, so this must be for the older machine, the 466 ID. That's never been opened. So we'll get into that in a second. That, I'm pretty sure, is related to the whole never obsolete thing. Because it's not a statement that the computer you're buying is never going to be obsolete, because that would just be ridiculous. You know, and I think even a company marketing cheap computers like eMachines who got their start really undercutting everybody else with extremely low prices on their systems. I don't even think they would make a statement like that. I think they'd be smart enough not to do that. But what it really refers to, if you check the fine print on the sticker itself, is it refers to the so-called eMachines network. And what you would do, I mean, they tout all the lovely features, but if you look at the end of that, upgrade your PC to the fastest model on the market every 2 years for only $99. Now, upgrading your computer every 2 years for $99, back in the late 90s, early 2000s, maybe even till the mid-2000s, quite frankly, sounds on the surface like a really good deal. I can't imagine that they thought that many people would take advantage of that, which is why they were able to get away with it, because that would eat into profit margins pretty quickly, because computers back then were, you know, only just starting to break the $500 mark, let alone the $100 mark. But of course, eMachines was well known for their cheap computers that they sold for bargain basement prices, like this one, by using cheaper components, among other things. But the fact of the matter is they're not saying the computer itself is never obsolete. They're just saying they're talking up their eMachines network, whereby you can replace your computer every 2 years for $99. I'm not sure if there's any other perks of the eMachines network. I'm not really sure when they pulled the plug on it. I know there's an LGR Tech Tales video that talks about eMachines and their various escapades. But in any event, nope, that wasn't what I wanted. What else do we have in here? There's a lot of floppies. I think these are all blank, if I remember right. I did take a cursory peek at these. And I think these are all unlabeled blank discs. There's 5 of them total. But, you know, floppies are good to have. Looks like some utilities, and there's some more. Or one unused floppy. BASF, there's a name I have not seen on a floppy disk in a long time. Are they all? No, they're not. That is a 720K double density disk. So is that. So some of these are actually, probably not very many of them, but some of these are older disks. Looks like a lot of high density stuff though. Utilities and things like that. Are they for an older machine? Perhaps. I guess there's no real way of knowing. It doesn't really matter anyway. But here's the other thing that's interesting. Is I was not expecting this. Looks like a bag of RAM, and I don't know if this is all PC-133, or if some of this is other stuff. I suspect it's probably all PC-133. No, that looks like that's newer. So that's 133. No, that's DDR. 256 megs. That's DDR2. Huh. Okay, well, obviously that's too new for this. That's PC-133. That's, that looks like registered memory, or ECC memory, one of the two. Maybe even both. Kingston Value RAM. Parity memory. But that's PC-133 form factor. I've got 2 of those. That's 256 DDR2. That's PC-133. That looks like what? What is this nonsense? 256 DDR2. Is that what this is? No, that's DDR. So, okay, well there's... I'm not going to go through all of that. I'll probably go through it off camera just to see what it actually is. But it looks like most of it's probably not for this machine. I don't know what's in this. And the other interesting thing about this that I've noticed in recording this video is that it looks like it's never been opened. And I know that's not true because the listing showed it with the cover off, but they did a really good job of putting the quality assurance sticker back as found. I mean, that looks like that's factory. That's never been cut. Now, obviously, if the hard drive is in fact bad, which is what I was told, I am going to have to pull the cover on this, and I'm probably going to pull the cover on it anyway, so I can clean out the dust. But it should be interesting to see if this thing has ever been upgraded. But clearly, this is not a 466 ID. I'm not sure what that would have been. If that would have still been a Celeron or a Pentium 2, probably a 466. But spec-wise, this thing, if we take a look at the front, we can see what it's got. You know, 566 Celeron, because this was the eTower. I know they had the eMonster, which was a full-fledged Pentium 3. It's got 64 megs of RAM. Apparently it could take a maximum of 256. Might have to experiment with that. There's your level 2 cache with a 66 megahertz FSB, 15 gig hard drive. It has a CDRW, so it's a CD burner, which it looks like is still installed. I'd imagine that's the original drive. AGP graphics, which, again, that's kind of intriguing, because I wouldn't think that something that's low end would have AGP, but evidently it does. It's got a 56K V90 modem, which I'm sure was a big deal back in the day. It is year 2000 compliant, which is also important. Apparently. Well, it was pretty important, you know, the whole year 2000 craze. It's got a single front panel USB port, and interestingly enough, it's got a front panel game port. I don't think you'll ever see that again. Can't envision there were many computers with that anyway. But it's got this really weird faceplate. I think this is plastic, but at least it uses standard drives. It's not like the later Pentium 4 era systems that had those stupid drives that had the massive front panel on it that you couldn't replace with a standard drive. That was really annoying. We could take a look at the back. It looks like this uses well, it is a standard power supply, but it's not ATX. I forget what they call that. SFX? It's not TFX, it's definitely bigger than that. But, I'm sure somebody in the comments will tell me. Somebody always does. It's, like I said, it's not ATX. It's the same connector. It's the same standard, but it's just not the same size. It's a smaller size. So hopefully that still works. And it's not going to blow up my face when I try this. There's another USB port. This would have been very early days of USB, which is why there's only 2 USB ports on the whole machine. There's your PS2, serial, parallel, VGA. Does this have AGP? Or is it just AGP on board, and the reason why it states AGP, well, let me rephrase that. The reason why it states AGP is because the onboard integrated video uses the AGP bus. It's just that there's no connector brought out for it on the board. And of course it's got onboard audio. But what computer of the time did not have onboard audio? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and hook up a keyboard. Probably not a mouse, but I'll at least hook up a keyboard. And plug it into the monitor, and hook up the monitor, and we'll see what this thing happens to do. And then after that, we can pop the cover and have a look inside. Okay, well, it's kind of a cable mouse, but there's no power switch on the computer itself. Now, what I was told is that the hard drive is bad and it needs a new CMOS battery. Now, the CMOS battery is not really a surprise, given this thing is from the late 90s. You know, it's 2021 now, so that's been, what, over 20 years. Over 30 years. Wow. No, that's not true, because I'm 24, so, no, 20 years, that sounds about right. Anyway, even 20 years, you know, 20 years is a long time, so I'm hopeful that none of this is going to explode in my face when I hit the power, but I guess if it does, it'll make interesting video. Computer is on. Is the monitor on? I have a green light. I don't know if the computer is actually on or not. I think it turned itself off. I don't hear anything. Does this not have a power save function? Huh. That's odd. Is the computer on? No, it turned off. There we go. So let's see, does it do anything? Is the monitor even functional at all? I don't think so. Is the brightness way down? Something's up. Oh, it was not on. Well, that would explain something. Is it gonna do anything? Does the monitor work? I'm starting to wonder about that. Because I don't see a picture. I should at least see something, right? I see nothing. Huh. Interesting. So I think this monitor is junk. Otherwise I'm sure it would have... Oh, here we go. I can't read it at all. Something's up. Yeah, that's not good. Because that is full brightness. Yeah, this thing is... No, this thing is junk. That's the DGOS. It doesn't have a menu. This is a cheap monitor. But yeah, the brightness and contrast are both all the way up. And that's the best it can do. It's not good. So I want to go into setup. Let's see if we can go into setup at all. Oh, that looks like garbage. That does not look good at all. Nope, that does not look good at all. Well, it kept the date and time. The hard drive is not seen at all. I don't even know if it has a hard drive in it. It looks like 566 megahertz Celeron. I can't even read this. Maybe it's just because it's cold. I don't know, but that should be, you know, brighter than that. I mean, the focus looks okay. The sharpness looks okay. Which I guess is the same thing as the focus. It looks okay. It just is so dim I can't read anything. So this is probably just going to be a junker, really. But I guess the hard drive is not really seen, so if it actually still even has the drive. Yeah, that's supposed to be set to auto. It's not even seeing it at all. So plug and play aware, operating system installed. I'm just gonna leave that. It looks like there's nothing set up in some weird way or anything like that. So everything is set up to automatic, which is probably the best option. Diskette access. I'm not sure why that's set up like that. That's a weird setup. This is a standard Phoenix BIOS setup utility. I didn't see what version it was. ACPI is on. AC default state is off. I'd rather leave that off. It doesn't have last state. So boot options, those are pretty normal. For exit saving changes, let's see what it does. eMachines. Can I get a splash here? Phoenix BIOS 4, revision 6. Obviously there's no operating system, so I think that's probably as far as I can take this. There's not much I can really do with this. It's just as really, it's going to need a little bit of work anyway. And it probably would even if it did function. But, you know, there's your never obsolete eMachines. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect everything, shut it down, and then I can go ahead and take the cover off, see what we find inside. Okay, I went ahead and I pulled the cover off. Which, of course, you know, it's got to be one of these full AT nonsense things. I really hate these. I don't understand why manufacturers thought that was a good idea. Side panels are so much better, but anyway, it doesn't matter. That's back in the day, you know, that's all we really had. Either way, we could take a look inside here, and it's actually surprisingly clean. Looks really good, in fact. I'm not sure if it was cleaned at any point, or if it wasn't. What's this ribbon cable going to? I'm kind of curious about that. Actually, it's probably going to the game port. Thinking about that. This ribbon right here. It's going to the front panel. I'm sure it's going to the game port. Which I'm still surprised this has. Looks like an Intel chipset. So, probably a decent motherboard. You know, nothing to write home about, but not dreadfully terrible. There's a jumper settings label, which you will never see anymore. All the caps are good, it looks like. Doesn't look like any cheapo ones have been used either. In fact, well, I should say that, yeah, it does not have AGP. It looks like the AGP has been used for the video. I wonder whose video it is. I think it's Intel. At least that would be my guess. Because this thing right up front says Intel Direct AGP. So, unless that's got something to do with the chipset, and it's got some other video chip on it somewhere. But the only big chips I see on this are Intel, so I'm sure it's Intel video. Which I guess wasn't a bad choice for the time. At least it's not Chromatic Research or something equally as ridiculous. There is no hard drive. I'm not really surprised to see that. I didn't hear a drive, so I guess there's one thing. So I'm going to have to install a new drive in this. I'll probably end up putting a 15 gig in this. I have plenty of 15 gig drives, and it'd be nice to keep it original since it looks like it's been kept pretty much original. Here's the power supply. I'll let you judge the quality. I don't know if it's the original or not either. It probably is, but look at this wire. I didn't even notice that. This is really thin wire. Huh, that's a cheap power supply. Yikes. Okay, well, I guess I kind of just gave you your own opinion. Oh, man. Yeah, I don't think that's a very high quality power supply at all, but I guess if it works, it works. You know, there is something to be said for that. I don't know who makes this optical drive. It is nice to see that they at least included the CD audio cable. Probably an LG drive. Maybe a Panasonic. Not real sure on that. And of course the bog standard floppy drive. It looks like there's only 2 RAM slots. That doesn't really surprise me. So I guess that's where the 256 megabyte limit comes into play. I don't know if you could use 256 megabyte PC-133 modules in this or not. But it might be worth experimenting with. Go through my bin of parts and see if I can find something. Of course, there's the original factory modem. Probably just a Win modem. I don't see anything really substantial on it. I just jumped because snow fell off of that car. That's quite sad, in fact. Crystal Audio chipset. Again, not necessarily a bad choice. It's not Analog Soundmax, at least, which is definitely a good thing. But no, I don't see any other chips on this. I can't read that. I don't know if the camera will be able to read it any better than I can, but there's the material number. Oh, Anaheim. Anaheim 2. So I guess this was designed out in California. I'm not sure, but there you go. It's very clean. Very surprisingly clean. The only real dirt is in that fan up there. So, there's your eMachines eTower 566 IR. Stay tuned for more, I guess, because given I know it works, there probably will be more. You know, just something to play around with for a little while and make some interesting videos. I don't know if I'll hold on to it forever because, let's face it, I don't really need any more 21-year-old PCs lying around. So, and it's really nothing to write home about, like, other than the interesting nostalgia stickers on the front, which reminds me of a story that I forgot to tell. I was going to tell, but one of the neighbors they moved away a long time ago, like mid-2000s, but they had one of these same style machines. I don't know exactly what it was, because I never really paid a whole lot of attention to it, but the only thing that I really remember about that one is that until a year before they moved, it was running Windows Me, which is my first real experience with Windows Millennium Edition. I had it on one of my own machines for a little while, but it was horrifically unstable, like Windows Me usually is, and I got rid of it after, I think it was less than a week that I had that, before I finally got tired of it and got rid of it. But that particular machine ran it pretty well, to the best of my recollection. I don't remember ever having a problem with it when I was using it, which was all the time. But of course, the only thing I really did with it was open up Star Office and play around with the various PowerPoint. I guess it's not PowerPoint, that's a trademark, but the various presentation designs, because I was used to Microsoft PowerPoint, and Star Office was different. Interesting to play with. But anyway, so that was that. I mean, they upgraded it to XP the year before they moved away. I don't know whatever happened to it. Would have been kind of interesting maybe to save it, but I guess it doesn't matter. It's just an eMachines. But there you go. There's your eTower 566 IR. Make your own CDs. AOL 5.0 included. What is this nonsense? That thing was for 4.0. Well, I guess it doesn't really matter. That might have been for the older machine. So, I also kind of like the read-write, the separate LEDs there. That's kind of neat. And of course the play button, which was used on these because these could be used as dedicated CD players. That's what the CD audio thing is for. But anyway, now I'm starting to really wax nostalgic about this. So, thanks for watching, and if you've got any comments, feel free to leave them down below.